Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
And today, I want to talk about the Castle Doctrine and our state's lack of having one.
Yep.
Now, down south, it's very popular that they have a very distinct and well-defined Castle Doctrine, where if someone enters your home, you have carte blanche to shoot at them if you're in fear for your life.
Yes.
In our state, not so much.
Not as much. Well, it's not as defined as well.
Well, here's what they taught us when I was in cop school, is that if somebody comes in your house, you have the right to shoot them if you believe that they're going to cause you great bodily harm or death. Mm-hmm. So you can shoot them, you can take their life to prevent the committance of a felony-level assault.
Yeah.
But if they're just in your house and they're grabbing your TV, you have to be like, get out. You can't just shoot them in the face. You cannot shoot somebody over property, especially if they're running out of your house across your lawn with something that you don't want them to steal. You still know. Especially then, don't shoot them.
Yeah, once they're out of the house, you can't shoot them. But even in a situation, I believe, if they are trying to take your life and you shoot them and they die, that you could be held criminally and civilly responsible.
Yeah, and that's kind of what got me into the idea of doing this episode, is the civil side, and we'll get there. But I want to touch upon a few state statutes. Minnesota State Statute 609.06. The intentional taking of a life of another is not authorized by 609.06, except when necessary in resisting or preventing an offense which the actor reasonably believes exposes the actor or another to great bodily harm or death, or preventing the commission of a felony in the actor's place of abode. So like I said, that is essentially our Castle Doctrine. Right? Our existing state statute says that persons do not have a duty to retreat before using deadly force to protect themselves or prevent a felony from being committed inside their residence. However, there's a lot of gun rights advocates that have reported instances where persons protecting themselves inside their home were criminally charged because they did not retreat. And that, for me, is a sticky wicket. Like, if someone's in my home and you're uninvited,
mm-hmm.
like you're burglarizing the place and we're home, or I come home and you're burglarizing it, I should be able to do whatever the fuck I want to you without having to worry about going to jail or being sued out of everything I've ever worked for.
Yeah.
Now, what I don't think it should cover is, say, you tell somebody to leave and they don't leave, unless they pull a gun or a knife.
Well, as it said in there, great bodily harm, which is permanent dismemberment, not permanent, but breaking an arm. You know, they break your arm or something, or they kill you. That's all covered. But if they just fight you and give you a black eye or something, that's not considered great bodily harm.
Here's a pop culture reference example of great bodily harm. A few years ago, and by a few, it's probably close to a decade. Yeah, it was a decade ago now, at least. Todd Bertuzzi, hockey player, NHL,
okay,
was playing for the Vancouver Canucks in a game against the Colorado Avalanche. And I believe the other gentleman's name was Steve Moore. He cross-checks him from behind, knocks him to the ice, and essentially dives on top of him and slams his fucking face into the ice.
Ow. Ow.
Knocked out some of his teeth, broke his nose, fucked his neck up, and the guy had to be in a halo. Not a neck brace, a halo, where they fucking put screws into your head.
Yeah, keep your neck from moving.
Great bodily harm right there
in
front of a national audience. So
that's a good example of great bodily harm.
Somebody, there's bodily harm, then there's substantial bodily harm, then there's great bodily harm and death. So somebody hacks off one of your fingers. Technically, I'm going to only cover that as substantial bodily harm, because you're not going to die from losing a finger. You could die from having your neck broke.
Yeah.
But, it's damn near felony level if somebody knocks one of your teeth out. I found this out working with a guy at Menards many years ago. He was at a bar and some guy punched him in the mouth and knocked out his two front teeth. And the cop, for some reason, decided not to arrest the aggressor because he said he would pay for the dental work to fix the teeth.
What?
You ever seen anybody that
Okay.
had their teeth knocked out put back in?
Nobody I know personally, no.
Okay, it don't look too natural. And they're never the same shade of white as the rest of your teeth.
No, I don't think
They're
so.
always an off color. Over the years, they've made numerous attempts to redo the law to be more strict. And you brought up in 2012 that they attempted to change it and it got shot down.
It passed the state legislature and the state senate, and Dayton vetoed it. And
Because?
the article I was reading about it was written by a public prosecutor for the city of St. Paul for 34 years, was saying that a lot of the terms used in there were too broad, and one of the big parts of it was saying that the police essentially could not question or arrest the person that did the shooting,
Yeah.
which would make it impossible for them to bring it before a jury to see if the force used was reasonable. And the wording in there as far as your castle was everything from your home to your garage, to your shed, to a boat, to a car, your yard, everything that was yours, your whole property. And a lot of people disagreed with, I guess Dayton and the people who were against this disagreed with how that was worded. Like, it shouldn't include your yard, it shouldn't include your boat or your car.
Is that if it's on your property or while you're in your car or in your boat?
It wasn't specific about that, so I'm going to assume it's if you're in your boat on the water or at a boat launch, and if you're in your car driving around, like you're going to get carjacked or something.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that takes us to that Wisconsin case that I have this information of. And we were talking about this before we came on. There was the case where there was a Wisconsin gentleman fishing on the Minnesota side of the St. Croix River, and then there was
A Minnesota man.
Yeah, Minnesota guy was on the Wisconsin side, Wisconsin guy's on the Minnesota side.
Yeah.
The Wisconsin man goes back to the Wisconsin side to approach a Minnesota youth who was cussing at him and trying to, tough talk him. They got into a war of words. So this gentleman from Wisconsin goes all the way back, gets in his car, drives across the bridge, goes to meet these people. Does that sound like a peaceful act to you?
No.
I mean, clearly some intention went into going over there with a mindset that you're okay with some sort of aggression or confrontation.
I would say some kind of aggression. I don't think he meant it to escalate as high as it did.
So the Minnesota kid that's on the Wisconsin side was a guy from Cambridge. He was 19. He gets in a car, and this guy from Wisconsin walks up to the car, tries to pull him out. He stabs the guy. The guy dies.
Yeah.
So what they were talking about is the difference between the Wisconsin and Minnesota Castle Doctrines. Or at least...
The Wisconsin Castle Doctrine includes your car.
It does.
Minnesota does not.
It comes from Wisconsin Legislature's Act 94. It extends a presumption of immunity to individuals who use deadly force in self-defense against persons unlawfully or forcibly entering their home, motor vehicle, or place of business. So what this kid's defense had to do, and the case I'm sure has been solved, but I didn't bother to look for the end result because I saw this and I jumped at it because, there's a difference between our laws, and that's just right there on adjacent states' borders.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he got off, maybe he didn't. But what the defense said is, this guy tried to get at my client. He went in the car to get away from him. He kept up. So he stabbed him, which was stupid.
Yeah.
He stabbed him to defend himself. But under Wisconsin's law, it doesn't matter if the person doing the killing had an opportunity to retreat from the confrontation. So
one could argue, him trying to get in his car was trying to retreat from the situation, which brings up the interesting when it comes to duty to retreat. You've seen that term when you've been looking at all this, haven't you?
Yeah.
And it partially goes in together with what they consider, your homestead, your castle. Like I said, Minnesota, the one that failed in 2012, wanted to include everything you owned, including your garage and your shed. And a lot of people were kind of against that. And I would say, for me, for duty to retreat means if you're in your car, but you're like in your driveway or you're in your backyard or in your shed, that you could retreat either to your garage or your house. that would be your duty to retreat. And that way, if the person followed you into there, well, then Castle Doctrine kicks in and you can use deadly force.
Here's the thing about
Especially
that,
if they're
though.
following you.
If you pull into your driveway and you don't have a garage and they park behind you so you can't drive away, you got your house in front of you, you got another car blocking you in, and they run up on you, well, you can't get out. You're in your car. You think you're safe, but they smash out a window.
So are you arguing that the car should be included in it as long as it's on your property?
I'm saying anywhere you're at, if somebody tries to force their way onto or into being the boat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, it sounds silly, but it's almost like pirates scaling the side of another ship. They're trying to commandeer your property.
I'm sure it could happen.
Somebody's in a boat on a lake. You guys pass too close. They come back. Words are exchanged. They try to jump off their boat into your boat. Well, you don't know. Say this guy's 5 times your fucking size. Say a grown man who's built like a football player.
No,
Not everybody's built like a
saying.
football player,
Yeah.
but the average man is 5'10" and 180 to 200 pounds.
Someone that I clearly wouldn't have a chance in fighting because I'm only 5'6" and.
But why should you have? What are you going to do? Jump over the side of the boat to fucking get away from him?
Well, you can't really. You don't have a duty to retreat because there's nowhere you can retreat. So I guess the argument could be made that Castle Doctrine would kick in, and I'm on my boat.
It should
He's
kick in.
Jumped onto my boat. He was not invited.
I doubt you're wearing a knife on your hip or a gun in a holster if you're on your boat. You're boating.
No, I haven't ever brought it on the boat with
Right,
me.
because why the fuck would you need a gun to go out on the lake with the family tubing and shit? Or fishing. You don't normally expect that. But there's people that do it. So say the person jumps onto your boat, or they pull up to you and they start waving a fucking gun around. Well, you can try to haul ass out of there, but if you've got anchor dropped. The point is that the law is dumb, that it protects these assholes that are the aggressor. If you're in the process of committing a crime, you should have no rights. You have made a decision to commit a crime, even if it's in the heat of passion. If somebody is trying to carjack you, fucking shank him in the eye with a pen if you got one. Shoot him, stab him. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, at that point, they shouldn't have any rights. If you're carjacking, breaking, whether you're breaking into a home or another, when I was reading up on this before, was sneaking, entering a home stealthily, like they didn't lock their doors, so you're just creeping in.
Still burglary by legal definition.
Yeah, but right now, the way it's written, you can't do anything if that's how they get. They have to force their way in.
That's fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's as soon as someone decides to either break into your home or sneak in or jump on your boat when you didn't invite them to or whatever, I would say all bets are off at that point. I mean, if they're committing a crime. Well, if he's just jumping on your boat from his boat, but if he's, say, brandishing a weapon of some kind, then I would say that would count.
Well, still, he's unwelcome, and he's the aggressor. You don't know what he's capable of, and you're not armed. You don't want to get injured, because as that lovely sheriff's deputy or cop, what happened at the Fireside Grill or whatever the fuck it was up in Andover? There was that SWAT cop who didn't like the drunk asshole getting lippy with him at the table next to him. Stood up, punched the guy in the face. The guy went over, hit his head on the concrete, and the guy had a TBI. They had to give him a shunt. He was in the hospital for like a month. He was temporarily in a coma.
You know, it's funny. I've never heard of that story before.
Seriously?
Seriously.
That happened like 4 or 5 years ago, and they stuck that fucking SWAT cop in the local jail.
Never heard it.
Yeah. He stands up, he punches a civilian in the face, civilian hits the ground with his head, suffers a brain injury. So you're in your boat, guy jumps on your boat, anyone jumps on your boat, punches you, they get you just right. You're either going to slip off guard, or maybe you get knocked out and you hit your head on something.
Or
brain
you fall in
injury.
the water when you're knocked out and end up drowning.
And then you're fucking dead.
Yeah.
So why the fuck are we protecting people for that? Same thing if you're sleeping in your car. Say, this is going to be a lot of hypothetical scenarios, but this is, I think, how they formulate what needs to be in a law. The lawyers get together and go, well, what if this? What if that? We need to cover this situation. You can get a DWI for trying to sleep it off in your car if your keys are with you anywhere in the car.
Yeah, if they're easily accessible.
Even in the fucking trunk.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to take your keys and hide them under a rock or behind a tree or something, somewhere outside the vehicle. That in and of itself is retarded to me, because you should be able to stick the keys in the trunk and sleep it off.
I could agree with that,
you can't turn the car on with the keys in the trunk. You'd have to get out of the car to get the keys. So, just like if you are, you're sleeping in your car and somebody sees you as an easy mark for a carjacking or a robbery. Say you were drunk, you're sleeping off, the door's unlocked. They're not welcome.
No,
the door was unlocked. They didn't have to force their way in, but say they're going to do you harm. Why the fuck should you have to retreat? How do you retreat? Your keys are in the trunk. Are you going to dive across the center console to get out of the passenger door? You were trying to sleep off too many beers. Why do we protect criminals?
I could see it extending to like the boat situation and the car situation.
When you got here, I was finishing working up. I hopped in the shower. So let's say that I left the door unlocked for you, and I hopped in the shower. And while I'm in the shower, before you get here, somebody helps themselves to my back door.
Giggity!
And I get out of the shower, and there's somebody standing in my kitchen looking at me.
Surprise, motherfucker!
There's so many fucking steak knives and shit up there. Why should I have to retreat? He stealthily entered my abode.
Yeah. No, he's in your home and all that. So I guess the debate should it extend to your garage, your car, your boat, if you have one, your shed. I mean, should you have to retreat from those? And I want to say no.
I don't think you should. And in that scenario, just so you know, I'm going to grab the boot knife that I have in my bedroom and also my billy club and go barreling down the hallway naked.
The element of surprise.
Well, he's not going to... He might expect you to see him and go, oh, shit, and slam the bedroom door. I might slam the bedroom door, but then I'm going to open it back up and go barreling down the hall, fucking Braveheart style, and just dive through the air and start swinging with a club in one hand and a knife in the other. And he better be out of here and not trying to disconnect my TV, or sorry for your fucking family.
Yeah.
Which is the big point here. The way that we are such a litigious society, we baby people who don't have a right to civil protection. Why? Why, if you're in my home and I shoot you while you're burgling it, should your family be able to sue me for the loss of your life? You're committing a crime.
Yeah.
You went in there with intention. It's not like the drunk kid that goes to the wrong apartment and he's got his key in the door and he can't figure it out, so he starts kicking the door and he scares you, and you open the door and tell him to fuck off. Maybe he takes a swing at you. But this is somebody that has made the conscious decision to come into your home. Even if they're just going to rob you and they have no ideas in their head about committing a rape, an assault, or a murder. They're stealing your property.
Yeah.
Well, you're not welcome in my home. And I don't care if you forced your way in by jimmying a lock or a window, or if I accidentally left the door unlocked while I passed out on the couch to take a nap. It could happen.
Mm-hmm.
If my kids are here, oh, you better believe I'm going to spill buckets of your blood. Why should I be sued civilly when it was your idea to come in?
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I don't think anyone who defends their home or property or others in their home should be civilly
liable.
Liable. Thank you.
Do you know anybody that would say, well, boy, I could just run into a bedroom and lock the door and scream at them to leave? Do you know anybody like that?
I know several people like that.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Because I feel like the majority of people would say, and maybe it's because it's America. Fuck yeah! And in our gun culture, people feel more confident that they should have the right to defend themselves under any circumstance in their home. I don't know too many people that aren't like, well, why the fuck should I get sued? You broke into my house.
Mm-hmm.
So if, and this is my opinion only, but I don't know anybody like what you just suggested, the question I posed. I don't know anybody that's like, well, I should just lock myself in the bathroom and call 911 and let the authorities handle it. I don't know anybody like that. So why, if so many people are presumably in that mindset, is it so fucking hard for the government officials that we elect to stricken up the law?
No, it's...
What's so hard about tightening the belt? You're protecting families. And if somebody just shoots somebody who's in their house and says it was over a drunk argument, That's a far cry from a burglar. Charge them criminally.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of that 2012 law. The example that was given in there was, say, because it wouldn't allow the police to interview you or arrest you or anything like that to conduct an investigation to be brought before a jury to see if it was reasonable force. The way the law was written, this guy was saying is basically what you could do is you could invite someone to your house, get into a fight with them, decide you don't like them, shoot them, say it was self-defense, and you're off scot-free. He thought that's kind of, I guess, how the law was written. But I have to believe that somewhere else in there that he's not mentioning is there's something about it has to be reasonable force. Like you can't just say, oh yeah, well he all of a sudden, picked up a kitchen knife while we were talking and I shot him because I felt threatened. I mean, because there would be people out there that would take advantage of that, I would assume.
Absolutely.
So,
now, opponents of making the law more strict are probably the people that would side with the families of those two hyped up youths, the boy and the girl that got killed by the old guy.
mm-hmm.
They broke into his home and they had burgled it 2 or 3 times prior and they were looking for pills and money.
I don't know if it was the same kids that broke into it multiple times.
He says he thinks it was.
Well, it very well could have been. I mean, the kids find a gold mine and they're going to keep going back as long as they think they're going to get away with it.
But what happened with him, as you probably know, is that they broke into his house. He was in the basement. He got his gun. The boy came down the stairs. He shot the boy who crumpled.
Mm-hmm. The girl came down a couple minutes later and he shot her, but she didn't die. She fell down the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And when he walked up to the boy and the girl, she, in his words, started laughing at him, giggling at him. And he basically, execution style, finished her off.
He used the quote in court that it was a good, clean kill shot.
Yep.
That guy, fucking idiot.
Mm-hmm.
That guy should be held criminally and civilly liable. So we can make the law more strict, and then you have a provision that if you injure somebody, you don't go fucking execute him. I think common sense is woven right into the fabric of that law.
Yeah, but I have heard before, and I've heard people say in a situation that if, like we've said before, if someone breaks in your house and they're running out, you're not supposed to shoot them. But I've heard people say, well, what you do is you shoot them before they get out of your house. And if they're still alive, drag them back in, finish them off. Just fucking kill them. Because if they're dead, they can't sue you.
Well,
but I guess these
can.
people forget about the family and everything like that. So that's what I've had people say to me in past. And it's like, well, in this situation with this old guy and the young girl and the boy, that was clearly wrong.
Well, see, here's how this society mindset of litigation can get out of hand easily. Someone's in my house, I shoot them, they die, their family sues me for the loss they've suffered. Air quotes, I'm being a smartass here. The loss they've suffered.
I'm picking up the sarcasm.
Why the fuck shouldn't I be able to countersue you for the mental anguish of having things I've worked for taken from me for simply defending my family? Because shouldn't you have been a better parent?
The PTSD of actually taking someone's life, I imagine, is very, very, very powerful.
So why shouldn't I be able to sue them back and say, well, you probably shouldn't have raised such a piece of shit, so I'm going to sue you for being a bad parent. Now, no judge in the land is going to go through with that.
Yeah.
But really, it becomes a tit-for-tat nonsense argument. It's like two people jousting with fucking balloon swords. No one's going to win.
Yeah.
So I think we need to take the civil liability right the fuck off the table.
Yeah, there shouldn't be any civil liability, but there should be, again, criminal investigation to see if the right amount of force was used or if it was excessive. Was there really a threat?
So those people that you were talking about, that that are the types of people that
would just hide in their bedroom?
Hide in their bedroom.
Yeah.
Let's say that they left some toys out, and this is a very Home Alone-like scenario. Guy trips on a couple of Matchbox cars, goes down the stairs, breaks his neck. Then he sues them. He sues them. Do you think those people are the kind that go, well, Billy didn't pick up his cars, and it was my house, and they were my stairs that he broke his neck? I would hope that there's nobody on the planet that's that much of a pussy that would be like, I suppose it did happen in my house.
To that extent, I don't know what they would say. But I just know they were like, it's just stuff. I'd let him steal it, whatever. It's just stuff. I was like, it's your home. You're being violated.
You don't know why they're there. Maybe they're grabbing the TV and they see you, and now they think, oh, well, I only see a female here. Or one of our daughters if they were teenagers. Rape time.
Yeah, so many burglaries start out just as that, and then when there's somebody home, that's when there's usually an assault. And then sometimes it's a lady. I think there was like a 86-year-old woman that got raped a few years ago. Guy went in to burglarize a home and found an 86-year-old woman in bed, and he raped her and then killed her or something. I can't remember if he killed her.
Well, he raped her, which first off, gross.
Yeah.
Second off, that's not okay. You shouldn't just feel like you could take advantage of a woman because she's old. But this also kind of plays into this character I do of a horny old woman who purposely leaves her house unlocked, hoping for burglars, so that she can meet people because she's lonely. You know?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So just imagine an 86-year-old woman is sitting there smoking at her kitchen table, and then a burglar breaks in and he sees her and he kind of freezes.
Hello, honey.
And she's just like, oh, are you here to burglarize my place? I hope you don't take advantage of me. And then she stands up and bends over the table and spreads her cheeks.
Oh, my God.
Come on. Oh, no. I hope you're not going to try to have sex with me against my will. Smile on her face. And then he just stands there looking at her. This is a scenario I came up with when I was standing in Rick James's kitchen, by the way.
Okay.
And in this scenario, the guy's just like, no, thank. Well, really? What are you, a faggot? What, did I get the one faggot burglar who doesn't want to fuck? What, am I not pretty enough for you? Huh? I'm sorry I'm not young and tight and toned, all right? But any port in a storm, right? Come on, I'm not going to beg. In that scenario, it's okay to shoot the woman.
That's just gross.
It's okay to shoot the woman because she's trying to force you to force yourself on her.
Yeah.
You have a duty to retreat, but if she leaves you, no other recourse. She's going down.
I think at that point the burglar has a duty to retreat.
2015, we're going to get serious again here. 2015, gun rights supporters rolled out a newer version of the Castle Doctrine, and the House leader said the measure was unlikely to win focus in 2015, and guess what? It did not. So their words were, the Castle Doctrine would give Minnesotans greater rights to use their guns to defend their property. Expanding that ability has long been a goal for supporters, but the expansion also has long been thwarted. So because they didn't think they could pass it, and this guy who's talking here is Representative Tony Cornish, a Republican from Vernon Center. I don't want to go at it again until I think I can garner up enough support in the Senate and the governor's office. There's no sense in beating a dead horse, but I support the bill. Well, fucking push for it, man. I'd get behind that shit.
Yeah, aren't you supposed to, the House to whip the votes up or something? I mean, convince the other senators and everything to join your side? Let's do this?
Yeah, Kurt Doubt, who's a House Speaker and a Republican from Crown, unlikely to advance this year, but he added it's possibly someone could try to amend it onto another bill, although he does not expect it. I don't see why they keep not getting behind it. It's just like the Sunday liquor sales. It seems like they only go after it every other year. Let's get this done.
I have a big belief that a lot of the times, a lot of these legislatures are lawyers and shit. And a lot of the people who are opposed to having a defined Castle Doctrine eliminating the civil responsibility should you take someone's life, I think it's because they're lawyers and they love to sue people, and that is an easy way to win money. You get a crying mother up on there, I know he broke into that house, but he was my son and he was a good kid.
Good kid who was high on fucking methamphetamine.
You even get 7 out of 12 jurors that are freaking bleeding heart, sympathetic people who just, like the criminal element is just misunderstood.
I hate those people.
And, that lawsuit's going to win and you're going to get all kinds of cash.
As a correctional officer, I fucking hate those people with a passion. You left-wing, pussy-ass, spineless bleeding hearts.
Sorry, if my kids became criminals, the first thing I'd do is tell them, well, you ain't my kid no more.
Well, here's the point of why I printed this story out, all right? They wanted to push for another Castle Doctrine, and they didn't. Because the House had pushed more quickly on 3 other gun-related measures. A bill to allow the use of silencers.
And they're like $500 fucking dollars.
To reduce the notifications gun permit holders would have to give and liberalize Minnesotans' ability to buy weapons in other states, won committee approval earlier in the month. So they want to give you more ability to purchase guns with your permit to purchase across state lines, and they want to give you silencers so you can kill more quietly and effectively. But they don't want to take the time to hammer through something and sit down and focus on protecting families and citizens in their homes.
They want you to buy the stuff. They just don't want you to use it.
So what the fuck is the point?
I don't know.
That's why they need to get on this shit. And I hate to use Texas as a benchmark, but Texas. Holy shit, Texas. They don't get a lot of things right because they're so backwater retarded and old guard conservative. Not to mention racist as hell. They'd still have slaves in Texas. Like if tomorrow they said, hey, Texas, you can have slaves again, there'd be fucking slaves like in 6 hours. They'd go kidnap people or they'd go take a bunch of illegal immigrants and put them to work.
I'm trying to figure out how Republican Texas really is. Because it sounds like there's a lot of liberalism going on down there.
Well, they're trying, but then you've got all these super religious nuts that want to sit there and argue over whether a mass of tissue is a human being or not and to restrict abortion. Because some people just, they want to go back. They can't go, well, this is the precedent. I can't leave it alone. We need to make sure that there's no more abortions.
Yeah.
Like, aren't
that
all
ain't
the problems
either.
All the problems are caused by people, pretty much, right? Pollution's caused by people. Overpopulation's caused by people. Crime is caused by people. Gun violence is caused by people. Racism and violence, people. Aren't there enough fucking people? Because it's not like there's a bunch of robot aliens running puppy mills. It's people. Soylent Green is people. Everything is people. So you're sitting here and fucking arguing over whether or not we should go back and try to ban abortion or stricten law up so that women have to drive across state borders to get an abortion. How fucking stupid is that shit?
You know, I'm not a proponent of abortion, but I'm also not going to tell someone they can't have one. It's a personal choice.
And that's what Texas gets right, though, is the right to defend yourself in your home. I'd hate to say the cowboy way, but it pretty much is a mentality of the Old West that you're in my home, you shouldn't be here, I didn't invite you, sorry for your family.
All bets are off.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be the nation over.
Yeah, the nation over. The world over.
I don't care how much you think that any criminal is amenable to treatment. I work with criminals, and most of them don't give two shits about you or getting better or improving themselves. That's why they're criminals. They're selfish, and they weren't raised right. And some of them, you want to get into a nature versus nurture argument, they're just shitty people by nature. As I said,
they find it easier just to be that way. Yeah.
As I've said many times, those of us that say, I believe deep down all people are good. No, they're fucking not.
No.
If all people were good, you could go and leave your wallet and keys on a park bench while you go for a jog and come back 25 minutes later and it's still there.
Yeah, if all people were good, you could go to Chicago and not worry about being shot.
That's only on the south side.
Yeah.
If you stick to downtown Chicago, you should be safe, but it's best to serpentine when crossing the street.
Yeah, no shit.
So if all people were good, you wouldn't have to lock your doors. Women wouldn't have to worry about getting raped at parties. Yeah. Because everybody would treat everybody with respect, and everything would be perfect, and the sky would be filled with flying unicorns that shit glitter and rainbows.
And rainbow popsicles.
I don't know why you would eat a popsicle that comes out of a unicorn's ass.
Have you ever seen those commercials on Facebook or whatever? I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a unicorn and it's pooping ice cream, rainbow ice cream into ice cream cones.
That sounds terrible, and it just sounds like a My Little Pony version of Two Girls, One Cup.
It looks like a My Little Pony unicorn shitting rainbow-colored ice cream into ice cream cones. It's actually funny. It's talking about the right way to poop.
The right way to poop is to squat down like on a squatty potty.
This is like a squatty potty, like a stool that raises your legs up so that your sphincter lines up the way it's supposed to, and
that's why
you can release all your bowel.
I'm all for low-profile toilets. I don't want to be high off the ground.
Some people have to have the high toilet because they can't squat down low, but then I think those people just need to lose weight.
Too goddamn bad for them. It's my toilet. I need it low to the ground. I should be able to poop there safely and know that if somebody breaks into my house while I'm taking said shit and they come into the bathroom,
if the smell doesn't get you, my weapon will.
That whatever I want to do to deter you, to get you out of there, or to defend my life, I should be safe to do so. So That's why I am imploring the Minnesota state government to reconsider. I think that's the fourth time we've gone round at least.
That I know of in recent history, yeah.
To reconsider making the Castle Doctrine more firm and to protect the rights of homeowners and families. Because everybody loves families, unless you're a Nazi.
Ooh.
And I just figured I'd go for a cheap shot there. Do you hate children? Why won't anyone think of the children? Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
And that's the end.
Surprise!